You're listening to Find Your Strong with Christine and Ella. I'm Christine, a personal trainer.
And I'm Ella, a nutritionist. And we're both also intuitive eating counselors, both fiercely non-diet and both done with toxic wellness messaging.
In these episodes, we talk honestly about how to care for your body without guilt, shame, or restriction. We are so glad you're here. Let's find your strong. So, Ella, this is our first episode in 2026.
2026, Happy New Year, I suppose.
Happy New Year, everybody. And yeah, don't sign up to any gym memberships in January. Just reject them all. Just sit at home and hibernate and keep warm and watch Stranger Things and The Traitors.
And eat yummy foods.
Yes, just ignore them.
I was just finished Stranger Things.
Don't
Have you
say
watched
anything.
It? I'm not saying anything, but it was epic.
We've got 3 episodes left.
Oh my God.
I don't want to hear.
Okay.
So anyway, today we've got a very, very special guest, and this is somebody that I've been connected to via Hope Virgo. If you look at Dump the Scales on Instagram, we'll put all of this in the show notes. And Sophie let me just read her bio for you. Sophie is a final year nursing student and the founder of ED Informed. Her work is rooted in lived experience of an eating disorder and years spent as a competitive swimmer. Having witnessed and navigated recovery in a culture that normalizes and praises disordered routines, she's now campaigning to shift health policy and safeguard those at risk. Her focus, now this is what's really interesting for us, her focus is on ensuring gyms and fitness spaces are informed, equipped, and empowered to recognize eating disorders, support those who are struggling, and signpost them to appropriate help. So that's amazing work that she does. Absolutely amazing
So
work.
important. So important. It's something, I think she mentioned that right at the beginning, that for a lot of people that doesn't even register how important that is. Because it's so normalized, the kind of language that's used around fitness and in the fitness industry, but also because if you're not aware of what's lacking until someone points it out.
Absolutely.
And then you think, oh my goodness, of course, this is essential. This should be part of every training. This should be part of every gym contract, that there is some sort of eating disorder informed resource available. I mean, it's a no-brainer, really.
There's a lot of talk now about being trauma informed. So I'm hoping that this can also become as prevalent, sort of ED informed. And I think please listen to the episode because she really breaks down why she's trying to do what she do, why she feels so passionately about it, and the need for actual education on eating disorders. Because many of us probably think we know what an eating disorder is, but have no real lived experience of it. So please listen to the episode. Sophie is amazing. We will definitely have her back on.
Definitely.
And I find a lot of her words really helpful for myself in terms of kind of how to navigate your exercise routine as somebody who has struggled with an eating disorder. So listen till the end, and
share it with
you.
any fitness professional you know.
Share it with anybody you know.
Anybody,
yes. If you're a gym owner or member, share it with any gym space, certainly. But please listen, and we appreciate you. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Find Your Strong podcast. We've got the amazing Sophie with us today. Hi, Sophie.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Sophie is from ED Informed, and she's going to be telling you quite a lot more than I am going to be able to in the next 1 minute. So I'm going to hand it straight over to Sophie. Sophie, so really, as Ella and I have explained to you, we are very off the cuff, not unorganized. Ella's organized. I'm a bit all over the place. We want you to just tell your story. We would love to hear how things started for you in terms of creating ED Informed, and what was the start? What really gave you the idea, or what fueled your passion to kind of bring this work to the world?
Yeah, it's a great question and one that I'm probably not going to explain very well. But I was a competitive swimmer for 15 years, so I was really used to kind of being in these high intensity, competitive, rigorous environments. Um, training up to, I think I got up to about 20, 22 hours a week at one point. So it was a lot. And I loved it. I truly loved it. But it did come with quite a lot of pressure. And obviously I don't know if I said I was a swimmer or if I just said I was an athlete, but I was a swimmer. And I obviously was in a swimsuit a lot. I became quite aware of my body, and I'd kind of spent my whole life actually trying to get bigger and more muscly because I equated musclier body with a faster body. And a lot of the people around me were a lot bigger than me, and that was something I kind of aspired to. So I became increasingly aware of my body image as I grew up. And within the athlete space was very aware of how what my body looked like might equate to my performance. However, I
Mm.
had a great relationship with food and overall a healthy relationship with exercise, albeit there was some stress. And then it was in kind of my towards the end of my university degree, where I was also kind of approaching the end of my swimming career. I started to think a lot about what the heck am I going to do when I'm done with this? Because all I've known for the last 15 years is being a student athlete, being all my spare time is used up by swimming, and I don't really know what I'm going to do. I was also studying in Canada. That's another story. My family moved to the States when I was 17. Then I went to Canada for uni because I wasn't quite ready to come back to the UK. But equally, tuition in America is ridiculous.
Hmm.
So I was kind of recruited to swim there. And then I was in my last year, last 2 years, and I was thinking ahead, well, where am I going to base myself in terms of country? Grew up in England, my parents are in America, I've studied in Canada, all my friends are here. All I know is swimming. I was studying psychology. I was like, I think I want to pursue psychology, but don't really know what that looks like. And I started noticing a real shift in my mood where my mood just kind of like went down the pan. Um, and it was as I was entering my last year where it also happened to be COVID,
Hmm.
everything like shit kind of hit the fan. And
Hmm.
I just fell apart, really. I ended up moving back to England, which was completely unplanned on my own. My parents stayed in the States. My mood was really, really low, and I'd now finished swimming and earlier than anticipated due to COVID. And I just kind of fell into this hole of like, what am I? Who am I? What am I going to do? um Hating my body, and that was kind of a new thing for me. I'd kind of begun to grow more uncomfortable in my skin, I think, and I had gained weight throughout uni. That's normal as just kind of getting older, but also I'd gotten bigger, I'd gotten more muscly, which was always what I'd wanted. And then it kind of got to this point where I didn't really have the purpose and the drive of swimming, and I just felt like really horrible in myself. And I think with falling out of this, I'd always kind of experienced the joy of movement, and now I felt like I was becoming a slave to movement, and my thought process around movement was really shifting. My body was also changing as I wasn't competing as much, I wasn't training at all. I wasn't moving really as much at all, and I noticed a shift in my relationship with food, and it wasn't a good one. I became very restrictive, and I kind of fell into that spiral of an eating disorder, which was horrible. I think
Hmm.
during COVID, obviously it was a struggle for everyone. But I think we noticed a real change in social media around that time as well. And obviously being stuck in our homes, there was a real push to kind of get moving and stay active. And that's great. And I think when it's done with the right intentions, exercise is always a great thing. We know that, and it has so many health benefits. But at that time, I think there were a lot of people who are really vulnerable, and I'd already kind of beginning to fall in that cycle of identity and my body changing, all of that. I was in a really vulnerable place. And I think although I myself didn't fall into any extreme disordered exercise, those cognitions were definitely there. And I think what I saw on social media definitely influenced me and definitely um, kind of pushed me into this disordered eating spiral that then kind of was a full-blown eating disorder, and I became really unwell. So
Hmm.
it was kind of following that and then recovering in these last few years in this society that's just become increasingly focused on diet and fitness culture and
Hmm.
this really weight-centric health policies that we have that are kind of driving so much into tackling obesity, which is great and a really important health goal. However, it completely ignores the other side of the coin. Um, and noticing as well, kind of when I became healthier and was re-engaging with exercise in a healthier way and not in a elite sports environment, then being really cognizant of like messaging in gym environments and the way gym and gym classes, like fat burn and all of these things, like they make you look at your body in a way where it's a project to fix and not like inspiring that joy of movement or necessarily just being performance focused, which is what I'd really been used to before. Um, so I think recovering through that and then re-engaging, I've started swimming again now. I go like once or twice a week and I absolutely love it. But being in a general leisure centre, not in like a elite sport environment, and being aware of that messaging and seeing different people around and noticing those shifts on social media, I was like, there is so much in the fitness space that really concerns me.
Hmm.
And kind of seeing it from both sides of the coin and seeing how fitness and health and movement can be so great, but also really quite harmful if you know there are those vulnerabilities there. Um, I really wanted to see some change, and I kind of had this idea of ED informed, not necessarily the name, but kind of the concept of bringing safeguarding measures and training to the fitness space for a while. And it started during COVID, actually, when I was quite unwell myself. And it wasn't until I started my master's, which I started in 2024, and last year at uni there was this event called Policy Idol, which I think is a play on Pop Idol, and it was like coming to present a policy idea and it could be anything and you had 3 minutes to pitch it. And I was like, you know what?
Love that.
Why not like
Yeah.
pursue this and pitch it as an idea? So I did
Mm.
that and that is where it all kind of took off. So that was last April and it's been since then that I was like, right, let's kind of do this. It got a great reception. I connected with some representatives at Beat and I was encouraged to kind of make a social media page and that's where it kind of all grows from. And I'm aware that was a very long answer to your question, but that was the background.
That was a
Wow. Well,
great
thank you for
answer.
sharing all of that
Mm.
and also for sharing your own personal story with
Mhm.
us. That's really I'm pretty sure that'll resonate with other people. Maybe not the moving to America thing, but
Yeah,
in general. It sounds very much like you noticed things gradually, like you noticed that there was a need for change. I love the idea of policy idol. Can I just say that? That's
yeah.
such a good idea. And you said it got a good reception. How did people respond to that? Because I think we all live in a world where it's so normalized, the messages in gyms are normalized. Oh, you're here to burn, to lose weight, to fix yourself, to, transform yourself. That it's just so normalized that no one bats an eyelid. And then you
Yeah.
come up there 3 minutes pitching an idea of like, we need to teach people how to do this properly and to be noticing whether there's something going on with someone over exercising or whatever it is. How did people respond? Did they like, oh my God, she's got point? Or were they like, what is she on about? What was the
Yeah.
general sort of
Yeah, well, I was really worried about that because I was
mm,
like, how is this going to be received? And obviously it's
mm,
quite a sensitive topic to talk about. And I
hmm
think with with a lot of people kind of in the mindset that exercise can only be a good thing and weight loss can only be a good thing. I felt like I
hmm
was really kind of going out there to say this, but um no, it was quite different to how I imagined. I had a lot of people come up and say like, why doesn't this exist already? Like I'd never even put two and two together that this could be a problem. And I think when you're in that space yourself and you've struggled with disordered eating or with your relationship with exercise, it's like it's so blink and obvious. Um, but for those that maybe haven't had that same thought process before or just not really kind of put those two things together. It's a bit of a mind-blowing concept, but equally one that everyone recognizes is probably something that should exist already. So
hmm
it was great to have that reception. And I think I kind of also took a bit of a risk in using my 3 minutes. I was quite I got like a mentor. There was like a heats and a final. It was all quite official. But I
wow.
got like a mentor in between to kind of refine my pitch. And they were kind of encouraging me, a bit on the background, but then you just need to get into the pitch part. And I'm like, but I can't do anything unless I get people to understand
Understand,
what
yeah.
eating disorders really are and how they present, because there are just such entrenched stereotypes that this is a visible problem and that it's,
hmm
and always people are underweight. Firstly, about 6% of people with an eating disorder are underweight. So that's just not relevant. I mean, it is in some cases, but largely it's not. Um, and that it's only females, it's only white women, it's only young people, and that's just so not the case. The eating
Hmm.
disorders do not discriminate. They can affect
Yeah.
anyone, and you can be in a completely healthy looking body and probably eating. Most people with an eating disorder, they eat
Hmm.
and actually be really, really struggling. So
Hmm.
I really needed to use some of that 3 minutes to kind of put that across and challenge that thin ideal and diet culture messaging that's being repackaged as kind of wellness and health. Um,
Mm.
and it was I was really grateful for how it was received, and it's obviously enabled me to kind of keep going and do all of this. So
Mm.
it's been positive, really positive.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it, that the behaviors, the very disordered behaviors are normalized. At the moment in social media and Hollywood, it's all being normalized.
Mm.
But there's so much weight stigma at the same time, isn't there?
Hmm. Hmm.
But if
So
you're in
much.
the, and this is what, and if people in larger bodies are doing the behaviors that are being normalized, they're kind of, do you know what I mean? It's
They're
not,
being applauded and
they're
they're
being,
being like, oh, you're doing a good job. I think that's where the obesity narrative comes in quite badly because as long as we still see being in a larger body as a problem and an illness and by default something bad, we're fueling that kind of, if you are in a larger body and you use eating disorder behaviors, that's great. If you are in a smaller body, it's not.
it's not,
That
yeah.
is just so wrong. And I think both of those narratives need to go hand in hand. We need to stop talking about being in a larger body as an illness. And likewise, we need to highlight the fact that eating disorders don't discriminate. They're not in a particular, they don't show up in a particular body. You cannot see in the majority of cases whether someone is struggling with food or exercise. And I think it's really important to tie those two together.
And I don't know if that's your experience, but it kind of in my experience, as soon as your weight restored, if you were underweight in terms of your eating disorder, oh, you're fine.
Mm,
Discharged by, and I had a friend whose daughter was diagnosed with atypical anorexia, and then she didn't feel she was doing it well enough.
mm,
And it's these, I think what you said there, 6% of people are underweight. That is huge. And that needs to be kind of said again and again and again, because I
mm,
don't think that really sinks in for people.
mm.
We've all got a
No.
very specific view in our heads of what having an eating disorder means.
Yeah.
And we need to challenge that
Mm,
because it's just not, it doesn't reflect reality. It doesn't reflect what's actually going on.
mm,
Um,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely. And it's not necessarily about the behaviors or the appearance. It's about that relationship, like that person's relationship with food, their relationship with their body, their
mm,
relationship with exercise, because that's where the disorder shows up. And I
yeah,
think there's so many people who are struggling and maybe don't even recognize it as struggle right now because it's being promoted as such a great thing. And especially in January, I hate January.
mhm,
It's everywhere. Like ditch this, diet this, exercise this. Like it's just it's inescapable. And obviously with the rise of the Ozempic, and it's
mm,
really, really scary. And social media particularly, like these algorithms just amplify this extreme content, and we've got all this edited, filtered realities that are taken as
mhm,
normal and achievable. And it's terrifying, but because little ones, of younger and younger ages are growing up with these screens in their hand, that was all just a click away, and that is shaping their world that they're growing into. And I find that is just that's just terrifying. And Ella, as you were saying, with kind of commenting on people's bodies and behaviors, whether you're larger or smaller, and how that's perceived,
mhm,
it's I saw a video on TikTok the other day, and it was a very petite lady eating a lot of food, and all the comments were all really positive and great and go you. And then a really similar video of someone doing exactly the same thing in a larger body, and the comments were disgusting. And
mhm,
it's awful. Like
mhm.
we've made it far too acceptable to comment on people's bodies and behaviors when it is quite frankly none of our business. Uh,
yeah.
Exactly.
it's horrible. It's really horrible.
Oh, you're
But this,
so right.
But this is a question that we have been going back and forward with because I
Mm,
think it is important to talk about the cultural shift in body
mm,
size, not personalizing it, not calling anybody out. That's something we don't really
mm,
engage with or believe in because that's not fair on an individual. But there's certainly a cultural shift towards extreme thinness.
mhm,
Do you know what I mean? Is that, I don't ever want to comment on somebody's body and I don't think it's ever appropriate. But I still want to comment on the fact that there's a very dangerous shift happening.
mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. I completely understand that. Yeah, it's not about targeting individuals. It's not about
No.
shaming people. It's about challenging the industry. It's about challenging policy, and it's about
Mhm.
challenging this culture that we've just made acceptable when actually there is a large amount of harm happening behind that.
Mm.
And I think that is a difficult place to tread. I think it really is targeting, the top, not the people who are casualties of the system that we're all kind of
Exactly.
under.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
in an ideal world, what would you like to see happening in gyms and fitness spaces? Well, because what we've just said is how difficult it is to because we can't see someone with an eating disorder or someone who struggles with
Mm,
their relationship with exercise or food. That's not always visible, or as you said, in most cases, it isn't visible. How do we, where do we start with training people to maybe check in, to assess, to notice, to do something about it?
yeah.
Where do we, what would you like to see happening?
I think, as I said before, like education is such a powerful
Mm.
tool. I
Hmm.
think the first thing is challenging those stereotypes and
Hmm.
highlighting that harm is about kind of a relationship with movement and not just what it looks like on the surface or what someone's body looks like. I think it's about bringing those broader definitions of health into these spaces.
Hmm.
We've really narrowed our definition of what health looks like at the moment, particularly in this kind of weight-centric culture that we're in. And seeing that as more holistic, about the physical, the psychological, the social, the emotional, the spiritual, all of those things, like that's what constitutes someone's health. Um, I think being mindful of kind of the language we're using around foods, not using binary or polarizing language that shames people's decisions. Junk food, there is no such thing as a junk food. Like food is
Hmm.
food, it's neutral, there's nothing moral about it. Um, and I think being I think as fitness professionals, kind of being attuned to subtle shifts in how someone is showing up, are they becoming more withdrawn? Are you noticing more comments around kind of their body? Are you noticing an uptick in, how much they're coming to that space and how much they're working out or how long they're working out? Sometimes, as we've said, not always and often not at all. There might be weight changes. And I think it's about noticing those things and not not commenting on them, but kind of commenting on those behavioral or emotional shifts. I'm not commenting necessarily, but drawing attention to those. And if you think, there might be someone struggling, kind of going up to them and just making that human connection. I think that's the first thing, kind of creating a space where someone feels safe to be vulnerable and safe to be honest and saying, like I've noticed you've become a bit more withdrawn recently. Is everything all right? Or, I've
Mm.
seen you a lot at the moment. What's kind of motivating you to come so much? Or I think those things are the things we need to be looking at and just mindful of how we're showing up. And I think as a fitness professional, like trying to model those behaviors and the way that you're referring to your own body or your own exercise. I think it's such a challenging thing, but I think we definitely need more policies to safeguard people who are vulnerable or at risk. And
Mm.
I'd love to see that starting with mandatory training for coaches so that they know
Yes.
what an eating disorder is and they know what that looks like and
Mm.
they feel confident and empowered to safeguard and have a bank of resources that they can bring to people who might be struggling and signposting to Beat or a GP or a wellbeing service and making sure that those people are properly supported because it's not your role to be a therapist or a doctor, but you're in a really powerful position to kind of pick up on those subtle behaviors and those shifts in intention. And I think that can be a really, really powerful place to start.
Yeah.
I've kind of almost taken myself out of the game in the sense that I don't work at a gym. I work for myself. And that's a lot easier because I'm a non-diet fitness professional. So people, if they're coming to me, pretty much are aware that it's not about weight loss. And if they want to lose weight, I'm probably not the coach for them. And I always kind of say, you might lose weight. you might not. You might get it's, I can't guarantee. I just want to help you build strength and feel a bit better in your body. That's kind of, and I think I still struggle with gyms. I still struggle with gyms. And I had an experience quite recently, a few years ago, where there's a massive scale in the gym and I was doing heavy weights. And the PT that he was very nice. I had mentioned I had an eating disorder history. And he said, "Oh no, but I've got to weigh you." And I said, I don't want to be weighed. And he said, "Oh, scientifically, you need to be weighed to be able to lift this weight." And I was like, but I really don't want to be weighed. So I had to stand on this big scale in the middle of the gym. And I said, "I don't want to know my weight," but he sent it to me.
God.
And it ended up really messing with me for quite, and I'm years beyond an eating disorder, but I've never owned a scale since because it's something that I'm not comfortable with. I just never weigh
Mhm.
myself. It's not something that I need to do. Um, and I think it's exactly that misinformation and lack of education that is just so sorely lacking. And he was a
Hmm.
very nice person. It wasn't that he just didn't realize the harm that it might do.
Mm. He was just following his his protocol or whatever he's been told, and
Absolutely. No malice, no, and I think that's where your point is so important, Sophie. It's the education that's needed, isn't it?
Mm.
And people aren't actually, they think, oh, eating disorders, but they don't actually know what it means.
No, I think you're so spot on. My concern is that if you have a PT and if you work with someone one on one or in a small group, it's a lot easier to build that relationship and to build that safe kind of space where you can say, actually, I've noticed you've been coming like 5 times a week.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than you. What is, are you okay? Those people that want to do that, they slip right through the net if they go to a massive gym because no one cares. It's all
Mm,
about customers. It's all about getting people through the door and getting your membership fees. And, they're thinking, oh, okay, well, they're all doing what they need to do. I don't know their names, so they're just here. I'm just thinking that probably needs a slightly different approach. And I think we probably need to start with, when people come through the door, how is there some sort of assessment? Is there some sort of, and obviously with assessments, people can lie. It's, nothing is a fail safe there. So I don't know about the statistics there, how many people actually work in a smaller setting with fitness professionals compared to how many people use the gym. But I would guess that the latter outweighs the former
mm,
massively because it is
Mm.
just a
massively.
cheaper, more cost-effective way of exercising. So how do we tackle that? Is there something that we can do there?
Yeah, you're so right. And obviously, if you work on a smaller scale or one-to-one, you have a lot more control over how
Hmm.
things are done, your environment, all of that.
Hmm.
And it's those large kind of corporate
Hmm.
gym chains that
Hmm.
are really challenging to tap into. And that's where
Hmm.
I'd really love to see the change. Because as you say, most people that's where they're going.
Hmm.
I think there needs to be better screening. As you say, people can lie.
Hmm.
But I think something that's really important to remember with, disordered eating, disordered exercise, recovery and getting better is ultimately it has to be self-led and self-motivated. And
Hmm.
even if that person does lie on that form, it's going to spark some self-reflection. It's going to kind of plant a
Yeah.
seed, and you don't know how powerful just planting that seed could be. I think there is ultimately a duty of care there, and I think that's where I'm really trying to kind of link in with the policy side and have that properly formally recognize that there
Mm.
is a duty of care for these gyms and
Hmm.
they do need to better be screening upon signing up for membership.
Hmm.
And I think if we can get the trainings to be mandatory as well,
Hmm.
and I think there's definitely something around kind of monitoring attendance patterns and if they reach a certain threshold or something that maybe there is some kind of flag that's raised on a system where someone can then send an email or meet someone in person and just kind of do a little check-in. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I think it's honestly about just having resources available in those spaces. I always think of it kind of as like the Ask for Angela posters or the Samaritans posters
Hmm.
that you see on the back of toilet doors. Like
Hmm.
it would be so easy to put those in a changing room. Just something that again sparks that self-reflection, a prompt for someone to think about their relationship with food and exercise. Something as simple as saying, are you always thinking about food and exercise? Because I think just that question, actually, if someone sat and thought about it for a few seconds, they
Yeah.
might realize how much those things are taking up time in their day-to-day life. And having a
Mm.
QR code or a link or something
Mm.
to beat or mind, or some kind of resource or questions to ask your GP, or it literally could be anything. And because right now there's nothing, and I think there's
Hmm.
so much potential for there to be change in those spaces. It's just about kind of getting in the door and having someone willing to welcome them.
Yeah.
Um, and ultimately, I think if you improve members' trust in your gym, you're going to better people's retention. And if you're truly looking after your members and promoting their health on a holistic level, you're
Mm.
going to maintain a loyal membership and a healthier membership and a happier membership that wants to come back and wants to recommend that gym to other places. So I think I'm really hopeful that that is something that can be taken forward.
Yeah, that's a really good point actually. When you look at how many people take out a gym membership in January and then don't go from March onwards, it's quite interesting, isn't it? There must be statistics on that. I was
Yeah.
just thinking when you were talking about just as something as simple as a poster, people who go to the gym tend to go to the loo before they go home or when they get there. And if there is a poster every time you go in, it'll register on some level, even if subconsciously initially. And the other thing that I was just thinking when you were talking was I was gym shopping not very long ago, and I found the most wonderful place that feels very welcoming and it's just perfect. But there were so many that I rejected on the grounds of what they called their classes.
Hmm.
Oh my God. My husband said, why didn't you go there? That's a lot cheaper. And I said, because they call their class burn. And, it was all angry. It was all about calories and it was all about losing weight and sweating it all out. And the way that it was described. And I thought, I cannot set foot in that gym doing what I do, knowing what I know, and, you know, being of pure conscience doing any of those classes. That's a big thing for me. Language I'm so passionate about using language that is supportive, inclusive, and not actually selling you something like that. So I'm just wondering whether that could be a policy for even the big corporate gyms. All they need to do is change the names of the classes. That seems like such a trivial thing, but I think it could have a massive impact.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know
A
what you
hundred
think about
percent.
that, but I just
No,
it just popped into my head.
I fully agree. So I kind of have this idea of I think kind of eating disorder informed is very much in its infancy. But I have this kind of vision of like an ED informed standard, which is kind of like a set of measures that gyms kind of
Hmm.
subscribe to per se.
Hmm.
And then they kind of get a ED informed standard sticker or whatever you want to call it. And that's one of the things on my list, is to have those class names looked at and
Hmm.
changed. And as
Okay.
you say, language is so important and so powerful. And
Hmm.
just make them neutral, if nothing else. They don't need to be all singing, all dancing, and
Hmm.
you know, posters or whatever that say, what is it, sweat is fat crying, or like I
Oh
don't.
God,
What is that? Like, no, take it down. Um,
so
things
bad.
like that. And
Yeah,
they're so easy to change and they cost nothing.
absolutely.
Um, but the impact that could have is huge, really, really huge.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
sorry, my cat was on the neighbor's roof, so sorry about that.
No worries.
Oh my
We've
goodness.
got a little kitten, Sophie,
Have
so
you got
sorry
her
about my
down?
absence. Yeah, we're working on it, so I'm very
Oh my
sorry. Somebody
gosh.
else is dealing with it.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Gosh.
bless
Oh,
you.
hope she comes back down.
So I'm
Yeah,
very sorry for that.
No, don't worry,
that's
don't worry.
Finish
okay.
off. Um,
Needs must.
yeah, what I was going to ask about in terms of policy. So as PTs, when the PTs train to be a personal trainer, there's certain nutrition. You get very basic introduction to nutrition principles. Would you want the policies? Would you want there to be then a section on like built into the personal training qualification, or is that something?
On nutrition specifically, do you mean?
No, on ED, so on recognizing eating
Uh
disorders.
yeah, so I'm not super familiar with the training that's already in place for kind of PTs. But I don't know if maybe built into it or as a separate training that's additionally required. Um, I'd love to see that put in place for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, I just think that would be because the nutrition, the education you get in nutrition is very calorie focused and BMI focused. And I think it would just be so important to actually counterbalance that with here's how you recognize disordered behaviors in a gym setting. And I don't know, I just think
Should
that
probably
would
scrap
be,
that nutrition bit altogether or change it as well.
That's what I was thinking.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Stay in your lane.
yeah,
Just, but it's, yeah, I think that's a really good point to have that integrated into the training that everyone who wants to become a PT takes. That would be a massive thing, wouldn't it?
be
And then
amazing.
changing the environment when you are in one of those places like a gym or somewhere where you exercise. That would be the follow on from, you have the staff trained, then you have all of the resources in place. And I think there's, as you said earlier, Sophie, you can't, if someone's determined to, to lose weight or is in the full throes of an eating disorder, you can't get them all, but what you can do is you can create a supportive environment in which it's less likely to thrive, that eating disorder. But you can't prevent it, but you might be able to, to normalize a different narrative, a narrative that isn't focused on weight loss, on calories, on burning, on all of that. And I think that's a really good strategy, isn't it? To normalize the more positive and supportive kind of language rather than to normalize this. Or, you've got to, punish yourself to achieve something.
Yeah, 100%. You
Mm.
can't, of course, you're not going to stop everyone in the world getting eat disorder by doing
Mm.
this, but you can prevent deterioration and
Mm.
you can um, be a huge part of early intervention. And we all know that the earlier that someone gets support, the more likely they are to recover and the quicker
Hmm.
they are to recover. And this is such an overlooked space to start doing that.
Yeah.
Sophie, how is your relationship now with the gym and with exercise? And you said you're kind of getting back into swimming, and how do you feel now? Is there still work to do? Is it kind of an ongoing thing?
I never I think I got gym membership for like 2 months when I was quite early on in recovery and I felt like, yeah, let's do this. I want to get more muscly and whatever. And quite honestly, I hated it. I didn't want to go. And the only thing that was making me feel like I wanted to go is that little voice in my head, like, oh, but you should get big and strong, and everyone on social media is in the gym and blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, you know
Mm,
what? This is not for me. I've never been in the gym. It's never been for me. I've been a swimmer. I love the water. That's that's about it. I went to the gym when I was swimming as part of our training, but it was for swimming. It wasn't for the gym. Um, so I'm not part of a gym, and I do sometimes get that little voice in my head when I see people getting big and strong and posting all their toned pictures on Instagram, and I think, oh, should I do that? But I'm really grateful that I've kind of been able to kind of hold strong in that. And the gym is not for me. Running equally is not for me. Really inspiring seeing people run marathons, but quite frankly, it looks horrendous. So not for me. Um, but swimming, yes, I've always loved swimming, and I always did want to make it my mission to get back in the pool when I truly felt like I was able to do it for the right reasons, because swimming for me never became really disordered and I didn't want to ruin that. So I was very mindful about when I made my return to the pool and how I did that. So yeah, I now swim once or twice a week and just for an hour and with a masters team. And I will always be the voice in the pool pushing for us to go on slower intervals because I'm like, I'm just here for fun. So I'm really grateful that I've been able to do that. And I think um maintaining that joy of movement and moving for the right reasons is such a lovely thing to hold on to in this day and age. Although I will admit it is really tough, and I do sometimes
Mm.
have those thoughts, and maybe sometimes I think, oh, should I swim tonight? And I really have to check in with myself and be like, do I really want to go right now?
Hmm.
No. then I'm not going to go, because I know
Mm.
that the only reason I would go is for a disordered reason, and I
Hmm.
don't want to allow myself to fall down that path. But I think if you have those kind of environmental and cultural safeguards in place, it makes it so much easier to make those truly healthy decisions.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to kind of see happen.
Do you
Mm.
know, this year I'm turning 50. Aren't you? Are too,
Yeah,
Ella?
same. Good
No
year.
And
way, you're both
yeah,
almost
Oh,
50.
yes.
don't freaking start. And I thought I'm going to do a marathon because I've already done 4 marathons, which honestly,
That's
Yeah,
that went
show
incredible.
off.
started here and went all the way down. So my last one, I cried for the last
God
10
bless you.
months. And somebody's like, "Oh, wasn't that amazing?" And I went, "No,
No.
it was just the worst thing." And this year I thought, "No, I'll go because I'll do another marathon and it'll be great." And then I went, "I actually don't have to. I could just have a party.
Hmm.
That's a great idea.
I don't actually need to run a marathon. There's
Mm.
nobody saying you need to run a marathon." And it was just to challenge my thinking and go, actually, you don't need to do that. You could actually just enjoy.
Yeah.
And it was just this like, actually, we can make those decisions. It's hard. And you've got the other voices there, but you can actually go, no, no, I could make my life a bit easier
And not trained for a marathon.
and not train for
Yeah.
marathon.
This is another thing I think that has been normalized is these big things that, oh, someone's trekking up a ridiculously tall mountain, or we have to run a marathon, or no, we need to do an Ironman, or no, we
Yeah,
need to. It's like, why?
I
I
know.
have never. I think part of me would say it would be nice to have done it. There is
Yeah.
nothing in me, nothing that would want me to train for a marathon and schlep through fucking
But
London for
this,
26 miles.
but
Absolutely nothing.
But this is why I'm interested in your take on it, Sophie, because there is something of an athlete in me in terms of I like to train for something and to perform and all of that. And it's hard to then separate. This is, Ella, what I've
Mm,
always talked to you about. It's hard
mm,
for me to separate. Do I want to run a marathon or am I just punishing myself by running lots of miles and doing lots of
mm.
training? And is that just because I quite like the thrill of training and performing and seeing what my body can do, or is that disordered? It is always, I'm always not quite sure.
That's a really fine line, though, isn't it?
It
How do
is.
you, do you just talk to yourself? How do you know?
Yeah, it's really tough because obviously, when I was training 21 hours a week for 15 years, I didn't always want to go. Of course I didn't. Um, and I didn't really have a choice in it, in all
Yeah,
honesty. But it
yeah,
wasn't coming from a disordered place, and that I had a really healthy relationship with food. And whether or not I swam that day, I would probably still have eaten 3 donuts for breakfast and not really cared. Um, and I think it's only after you've become aware that you've had a problem or a struggle with food and exercise that suddenly teasing that apart becomes so much more difficult. And again, in this culture we're in, it becomes really difficult because everybody's doing it and it feels like the right
Mm.
thing to do or a good thing to do or an inspiring thing to do. Um, I I guess for me, I've kind of accepted that I've exited my elite athlete career. And so anything I do from here, I want to do solely for fun. Um, and I think that's tricky because if you're still in a space where you want to challenge yourself and compete, and I'm a competitive person and sometimes I get competitive in the pool, but I think I always come back to, am I enjoying myself? Am I enjoying this? And am I going to be changing behaviors outside of this exercise space? Am I going to be changing food behaviors based on what I have or haven't done today? Or
okay.
are there any
Hmm.
thoughts around whether I'd quite like to change some of those food behaviors? Um, and just really trying to tap into, is this something I really want to do? Am I really enjoying it? What would I tell someone else who feels how I feel right now, but about whether they should or shouldn't do this thing that I'm thinking about? I think sometimes when I'm really on the fence about if I want to go for a swim in the evening and it's cold and it's miserable and I'm really exhausted, and if someone else came to me and said that's how they feel, I'd be like, well, don't go then. Like, and I think if that would be my advice, and like, well, then why am I forcing myself out the door? Because
Hmm.
there's no need for me to do that right now. And if I'm not
No.
enjoying it and it's possibly going to, have a ripple effect on what I do or don't eat, or am I only going because I want to eat something more, then I know that that's the wrong decision for me. And it is really tricky to tease out. And I think it takes practice and consistency and a sustained period of being able to abstain from exercise and be totally okay with it. But it is really tough, really, really, really tough. So I can really understand the struggle that comes with that.
Mm.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's something that is very very individual, isn't it? Because
Mm,
there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to achieve or to push yourself a little bit or to see, how far can I go? How heavy can I lift? Inherently, there's nothing wrong with it. But if it tips over into, as you said, Sophie, into am I compensating somewhere else? Am I changing how I eat? Am I changing my social interactions? Am I canceling meetups with friends because I feel like I have to train? That's when it becomes disordered. So it's very important. What you said is about asking yourself those questions every time,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And looking at that full picture
Mm,
and how would I feel if I couldn't go? Would that cause me a lot of
mm,
anxiety?
mm,
Or what if I was
mhm,
injured? Would I
mhm,
feel like I still wanted to go?
mhm,
Or, do I am I eating out tomorrow? Is that why I want to go? Like, it's just
mhm,
really looking at that wider picture and thinking, what else is going on right now? Is there something else I'm feeling that I'm kind of projecting onto my body and wanting to do something? Or is this coming out of a place of, yeah, I think I want to go and I'm fueling myself and I'm enjoying kind of a balance and like
mhm,
that's fine. And
mhm.
it's hard. It's hard to get there, really hard.
Yeah.
it's really helpful what you've said because it's so true. There's often something else going on, and we
Mhm,
just kind of go, "Oh, this is my stress responses immediately hone in, and then I can push it away." But I think for a lot of people, that's the case. They kind of turn in on and try and unpick what's wrong with themselves rather than going, "Actually, there's a big issue that I'm not wanting to deal with,"
Mm,
and this is.
mm.
And I think that's really important what you said about asking yourself these questions. I'm going to use them myself. So thank
yeah.
you
And
very
I think
much. But
it's, no,
Sophie,
you're welcome. I
Mhm,
was just going to say, I think it's kind of where that psychological part of an eating disorder gets neglected, because you forget that it's not actually about the food, it's not actually about the body, it's about those internal thought processes and beliefs about yourself, and that's where the work starts, and that's what we need to get people to understand that that's what the problem is. It's not your body, it's not your food,
mhm,
it's not your exercise, it's your
mhm.
relationship with those things, your relationship with yourself and how you are doing as a person.
Yeah.
well, Sophie, unfortunately, we have to end
Of
here.
course.
We could easily chat to you for hours
Oh
longer,
gosh,
couldn't we, Ella?
yeah.
There's so much more ground to cover.
I
We
wonder
would
whether
love
we can have you back once things are progressing
once you,
with ED Informed and you can
I'd
give
love
us a
that.
little update.
Yeah, thank you.
That would
That'd
be
be great.
good.
but in the meantime, what can we do to help to support
Mm.
you in this?
That's so
Yeah.
kind. That's so kind. I think, as I said, I do kind of see us very much in its infancy. So still trying to kind of build a community, put this on people's radars, looking for opportunities like this to talk about it and have these
Yeah.
conversations and
Mhm.
any spaces or people that are kind of willing to pilot some ideas. Like I would so love that. I do have a website and a social media page, and I'm running a few little things. I've got a survey going on at the moment, which I probably should start promoting a bit more heavily. Um, Kind of looking at people's relationship with a gym and what they think gyms could do better to feel like more supportive spaces.
Mhm.
Um, there's a petition that I am pushing for eating disorders to be recognised in UK health policy. And then I'm fundraising, which is for this training that I'm working on developing with Beat. So I've partnered with Beat and they are working behind the scenes tirelessly to develop a training specifically for fitness professionals. But I'm trying to
Amazing.
fundraise as much as possible to cover development costs for that. So that's ongoing as well.
Brilliant.
So those are some ways to support, and I'd be so grateful. And thank you so, so much for having me today. It's been so lovely to talk
Oh,
to you
it's been
guys.
so
Oh,
interesting. And we will share all of the links in our show
really.
notes. So anyone
Thank
listening or
you.
watching can just click on the links. I've just filled in the survey before we came on. And it's really good. It's really interesting because it makes you think, that survey. So I'd highly recommend anyone who's got a couple of minutes to fill that in. But yeah, we'll share all of those links in the show
Yeah.
notes, and hopefully people can then check you out and share with people they know.
Yes.
Thank you.
100%.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sophie, and we will be in
Thank
touch because I
you.
want you back on soon.
Yes.
Oh, I would love that.
Thank
I would
you.
love that. A
Thanks
pleasure.
so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.